The black and white checkered floor of Caruso's restaurant stretches silent and motionless at 9:33 on a Tuesday night. Soft amber lights hang from the ceiling like captured sunlight. The smell of fresh rosemary and butter and expensive wine hangs in the air. 20 diners sit at scattered tables, their forks suspended halfway to their mouths, their conversations frozen mid-word. In the center of the room, at a corner booth beneath a painting of the Sicilian coast, a man in a three-piece charcoal suit has gone absolutely still. His name is Luca Caruso. He is 38 years old. His hands, scarred in every direction like a map of violence, rest flat on the white tablecloth. His dark eyes, the color of storm clouds before hail, watch the high chair 3 feet away. A child sits there. His niece, Emma, 18 months old, with his sister's dark curls and his brother's stubborn chin. Emma is choking. Her small face has turned the color of slate. Her mouth opens and closes like a fish pulled from water. Her tiny hands claw at her throat. No sound comes out. The silence in the restaurant has become a physical thing, pressing down on every person like the weight of a coffin lid sealing shut. Emma's mother, Lucia, Luca's younger sister, 32, and beautiful and now undone, grabs the baby from the chair, shaking her, patting her back, her voice rising into a shriek. "Someone help her! Someone help her! Emma, breathe! Baby, breathe!" Luca rises from his seat. His movements are measured, each one controlled like a general surveying a battlefield. He has killed men for less than this moment of helplessness. He has destroyed families. He has signed death warrants with a single nod of his head. But his hands are shaking so violently he cannot steady them. "Do something," he says. His voice is deep and solid like an oath, but now it cracks like thin ice. Somebody do something. 2 private physicians sit 2 tables over. Luca keeps them on permanent retainer, paid to be present at all family events. One fumbles with his medical bag. The other stammers about liability. They do not move. In their eyes is a specific kind of terror, not fear of the child's fate, but fear of Luca's response to their failure. Sergio stands. Sal stands. They are his most trusted lieutenants, men who have pulled triggers without hesitation, men who have dumped bodies into the bay at midnight. Their faces have gone pale. They back away from the scene as if proximity to this moment might mark them for violence. Then, from the corner booth where she has been eating alone on her break, a woman stands. She moves without permission, without waiting, without the hesitation that keeps everyone else frozen. Her uniform is grey and stained with the sweat of 14-hour days. Her hair is pulled into a tight bun. Her name is Reynolds. She is 26 years old and the bruises on her neck, barely concealed beneath the collar of her shirt, tell a story nobody asks about. She does not ask permission. She does not wait for a doctor's instruction. She walks forward and takes Emma from her mother's arms in one fluid motion. She flips the baby face down across her left forearm. Her right hand, calloused from years of scrubbing floors and washing dishes and folding other people's children's laundry, comes up. 5 sharp back blows between Emma's shoulder blades. Professional. Decisive. The same technique she learned 3 years ago when she worked at a daycare center that could only pay her in cash because she had no documents, no references, no legitimate way to exist in any system. A piece of bread flies from Emma's mouth and shatters against the floor like a small stone. Emma gasps. Her lungs fill with air. She coughs, her entire small body convulsing, and then she wails. That sound, that beautiful, furious, alive wail, fills the restaurant. Lucia sobs and takes the baby back, pressing her against her chest, whispering thank you, thank you, thank you into her daughter's dark curls. Mia wipes her hands on her apron. She returns to her booth. She sits down. She picks up her fork and continues eating her cold chicken and rice, the food she had been rationing to last her until her next paycheck. Luca Caruso stares at the space where she was standing. His breath comes in long, measured pulls. His hands, the same hands that have held guns and signed death warrants, are still trembling. In 15 years of running an empire carved from the city's underworld, he has never felt helpless. He does not know how to process the experience of being powerless. He does not know how to thank someone. His world has just tilted on its axis and he cannot find his balance. But what Luca did not know was that the quiet woman with the tired eyes and the stained uniform sitting alone in the corner was Reynolds. She was invisible to people like him. She was the kind of person the world walked past without seeing. She had $5 in her pocket. Her rent was due in 3 days. She owed Catherine Mercer, the woman she worked for as a live-in nanny, exactly $85,000 in unpaid wages that Catherine had stolen over 7 years of employment, wages that existed only in Mia's heart because no paperwork, no contracts, no evidence of work had ever been created. She was nobody. Just another waitress. Just another person trying to survive until tomorrow. Luca Caruso did not know her name. He did not know that her story would burn through his carefully constructed world like a blade wrapped in ice. He did not know that the moment she turned away from his niece was the moment everything changed. But somewhere in that restaurant, in the spaces between heartbeats, fate had made a decision. 3 weeks earlier, on a cold October morning in a converted closet that Catherine Mercer called a bedroom, Reynolds woke to the sound of her phone alarm. The phone itself was a relic, a Samsung from 6 years ago, battery hanging on to 33%, the screen cracked along the left edge in a pattern that looked like a lightning bolt. She did not move for a full minute. She lay on the thin mattress that Catherine had bought at a thrift store for $19, under a blanket with a hole in one corner that Mia had stitched closed with fishing line because she could not afford thread. The room was 6 feet wide and 4 feet deep. A converted linen closet. The window was a small rectangle of thick glass that did not open. The only light came from the slot beneath the door and from the small lamp Mia had sharp-lifted from a Goodwill last year. She had not slept well. She had not slept well in 3 years. Outside the small window, San Francisco was beginning. Fog rolled through the streets like something alive. The sound of cable cars came muffled through the walls. Birds. Car horns. The city waking up to a day it did not yet know would be significant. Mia reached for her phone. She opened the banking app. The number on the screen made her chest tighten. $43. $43 to last until her next shift at the diner, which was 4 days away. $43 for food. For gas to drive Catherine's children to 3 different schools. For the replacement ID that had expired last month. For the phone bill due tomorrow. For everything. She counted her change that evening, sitting on her mattress after Catherine had gone to bed. She did this every night, as if the count might mysteriously increase. The coins fell in a silver cascade into her palm. 97 cents. She placed each coin into a clear plastic bag she had saved from a dry cleaning delivery. She placed that bag inside a box of old paperbacks under her bed. That box had been collecting change for 2 years. It now contained approximately $342. Her escape fund. The thing that would someday get her away from the Mercer house and into a place of her own. Someday. The word had started to taste like a lie. She stood and looked at the photo taped to her wall, a small Polaroid, yellow with age, showing a woman with Mia's same dark eyes and a baby wrapped in a blue blanket. Her mother. Mia at birth. The photo was taken in 1997, in a hospital room in Phoenix. Her mother had left 3 weeks later. She had left the baby with a note and a blanket and a phone number that no longer worked. Mia touched the photo with the tip of her index finger, the same ritual she performed every morning and every evening. Then she changed into her work clothes. The job at Catherine Mercer's house had no contract. Mia had been hired 7 years ago through a woman named Rita who worked under the table in the Mission District. Rita had been paid $800. Mia had been paid nothing. She had been given room and board and the promise that after 1 year, when she had proven herself reliable, Catherine would raise her wages to minimum. The raise never came. Instead, Catherine had slowly increased her responsibilities. Mia began managing the household budget. Mia began preparing all meals. Mia began driving the children to soccer practice at dawn and piano lessons at dusk and orthodontist appointments and speech therapy. Mia began cleaning the 8-bedroom house on Divisadero Street. Mia began doing the laundry for 4 people. Mia began everything except having a salary. Catherine Mercer was 51 years old. She wore clothes that cost more than Mia made in a month. She had a husband named Robert who traveled for business and was rarely home. She had 2 children, Marcus, who was 12 and cruel in the specific way that wealthy children become cruel when nobody tells them no, and Sophie, who was 8 and kind in a way that made Mia's heart break every single day. This morning, Catherine was waiting in the kitchen when Mia came downstairs at 6:15. "The Hendersons are coming for dinner tonight," Catherine said. She did not look up from her phone. 8 people total. "I want the good china. I want fresh flowers. I want the roasted lamb with the pomegranate glaze you made last month. Catherine, I have my shift at the diner until 10. The Hendersons usually stay late. I will not finish cleaning until 1 in the morning. Then you will finish until 1 in the morning. I have to drive Sophie to school at 7:30. Marcus can drive her. Marcus is not a good driver. He is not paying attention to the road. He is on his phone the entire time. Sophie is afraid to drive with him." Catherine turned and looked at Mia for the first time. Her eyes were the color of stone. "Do you know how much my house costs per month to maintain, Mia? Do you know how much I spend on private school and tutoring and activities? I give you a roof. I give you food. I clothe you. I provide health insurance. Catherine, I live in a closet. You give me no salary. You are ungrateful," Catherine said. The words came out soft and careful, like a knife sliding between ribs. "You are the most ungrateful person I have ever met. After everything I have done for you, taking you in, employing you, treating you like family, you complain about every single thing." "I am not complaining. I am explaining that I cannot work until 1 in the morning when I have to start work again at 6 tomorrow evening. Then perhaps you should stop working at that diner. Perhaps you should focus on your real job, the one that I am paying you for." "You are not paying me anything," Mia said. Her voice was very quiet, like a candle in the wind. Catherine's hand came up so fast that Mia did not see it coming. It connected with Mia's face, across her cheekbone, and the sound it made was sharp as a gunshot in the quiet kitchen. Mia's vision flashed white. Pain bloomed across the left side of her face like a flower with thorns. "You will never speak to me that way again," Catherine said. "Do you understand me?" Mia did not answer. She was learning the specific art of becoming invisible. Catherine had been teaching her for 7 years. "I asked you a question." "Yes," Mia whispered. "I understand." Catherine turned and left the kitchen. Her footsteps faded up the stairs. Mia stood alone in the silence, her hand pressed against her face, her vision still swimming at the edges. She had a shift to work. Before we continue, if this story is hitting you, drop a like. Share it with someone you love and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This is exactly the kind of story that changes how we see invisible pain. Now let us go back to understand how everything converged on that specific night at Caruso's restaurant. What happened 3 weeks before would reshape every person it touched. The black and white checkered floor of the Copper Kettle Diner stretched out beneath Mia Reynolds' feet like a chessboard where she had already lost every piece that mattered. It was 5:37 in the morning on a Thursday in October, and the neon sign in the window buzzed with the sound of dying electricity, a sound like the end of something beautiful. The smell of burnt coffee and grease hung in the air, thick and suffocating, the kind of smell that soaked into your skin and your hair and your clothes until you became part of the diner itself, indistinguishable from the permanent stain on the counter. Mia wiped down the last booth. Her hands were raw. The skin around her knuckles had cracked from the heat of the dishwasher, from bleach, from the relentless friction of work, and she had stopped putting bandages on them because she could not afford bandages. She had $5 in her pocket. $5. Not 500. Not 50. 5. And that $5 had to last her until Catherine Mercer decided, on a whim that might never come, to pay her the wages she had earned 3 weeks ago and still had not received. The diner was nearly empty. One man in a corner booth slept with his head tilted back, his mouth open, an empty beer bottle on the table beside him. The clock on the wall ticked past 5:40. 17 minutes until her shift ended. 17 minutes until she had to walk the 6 blocks back to Pacific Heights, back to the Mercer mansion, back to the converted closet that was not a closet but had been decorated as one, with a twin mattress on the floor and no window and walls so close together that when she lay down and stretched her arms, her fingertips touched both sides. She had to be awake in 40 minutes. Emma and Thomas had school at 8. Their uniforms had to be pressed. Their lunches had to be packed. Catherine would be in the kitchen drinking her green juice and scrolling through her phone, and she would find something, a thread pulled on Thomas's sweater, a crease in Emma's collar, and she would press her lips together in that expression that meant Mia had failed again. The sound of the back door opening made her spine go rigid. It was Douglas Hale. She did not need to turn around to know. She recognized the weight of his footsteps, the specific creak of the floorboards near the kitchen. She had learned to recognize danger the way other people learned to recognize the voices of people they loved. Douglas Hale was 52 years old and had the face of a man who had made a career of taking small things from people who could not afford to lose them. His hair was thinning, slicked back with something that smelled like nicotine and regret. He wore the manager's shirt, faded blue with a permanent stain near the pocket that looked like blood but probably was not. His eyes were the color of old pennies, and they moved across her body the way a predator's eyes move across a landscape, calculating. "You're short on the register again," he said. His voice was not loud. That was what made it dangerous. Loud voices could be escaped. Quiet voices followed you home. Mia did not turn around. She continued wiping the booth. The cloth moved in small circles over the same square of table she had already cleaned 3 times. "I am not short. I counted twice." "You calling me a liar?" He was closer now. She could hear the leather of his belt creaking as he walked. She could smell the coffee on his breath, sour and hot. "I am saying the drawer is balanced." He stopped behind her. The air between them went still, the way air goes still before a storm. "I was thinking we could talk about something different. Something that might help you with your money problems." "You do have money problems, don't you, Mia?" "That's what I heard. That you're living in a closet. That Catherine hasn't paid you in weeks." She straightened up. She did not turn to face him because looking at his face made it harder to think. "I need to finish closing." His hand came down on her shoulder. His fingers pressed into the bone. "I'm not done talking to you." Every muscle in her body screamed to run. But running meant losing this job. Losing this job meant losing the $300 a week that kept her alive, that kept her paying for the smallest studio apartment she could find when she finally saved enough money to leave the Mercer mansion. It meant staying trapped. So she did not run. She stood absolutely still and let his hand rest on her shoulder like a weight, like a blade, like the entire world pressing down on someone who was already drowning. "Mrs. Mercer called me," Douglas said. His voice was very quiet. Like a prayer, but not the kind of prayer that reached heaven. "She said you've been difficult. That you've been refusing to work the hours she needs. That you've been insolent. I worked until 1 in the morning yesterday. And Catherine said you complained about being tired. She said you talked back to her." His hand tightened. His fingers dug into the soft space between her shoulder and her neck. "Is that true, Mia?" She did not answer. She had learned that not answering was sometimes the same as surviving. She also mentioned that you might need some extra motivation. She said if you're going to live under her roof, you should understand the cost of gratitude. His hand moved, sliding down her arm. His palm was damp. "I could help you understand that. I could help you in ways that might make your situation a lot easier." The back door was 10 feet away. The front door was 30 feet away. The kitchen had a loading door that opened onto an alley. She was calculating distances the way people in cages calculate them, always measuring the space between where they are and where they might escape to. $40 from the register, he continued. I could forget about it. I could even talk to Catherine about giving you an advance on your pay. Catherine listens to me. We have that kind of relationship, you understand? We understand each other. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Douglas Hale and Catherine Mercer understood each other. This was the sentence that unmade her, that showed her the architecture of her own trap. She was not being tormented by two separate people. She was being tormented by a system. A network. Cruelty that had communicated with itself, had organized, had connected. She pulled her arm away. Her voice came out like broken glass. I have to finish. The owner counts the drawer at 6. Douglas stepped back. He smiled. It was the kind of smile that lives in small rooms and dark corners. You think about my offer. You think real hard about it. Because sooner or later, Mia, everyone in this world has to choose between their pride and their survival. And from what I can see, your pride isn't going to keep you alive very much longer. He walked to the office in the back. The door closed. Through the window in the door, she could see him sit down at the desk, his feet up on the surface, his phone in his hand. He was not watching her. He did not need to watch her. He had planted the knowledge inside her like a seed, and that knowledge would grow whether he was watching or not. The clock ticked to 5:55. Mia finished closing. She wiped the counter. She swept the floor. She turned off the neon sign, and in the darkness, she gathered her things, her coat, her bag containing her work shoes and her dignity and her fear, and she walked out into the October morning. The streets of San Francisco at 6 in the morning in October are cold. The wind comes off the bay and carries with it the smell of salt water and fog, and it cuts through your coat and your skin and goes straight for the bone. Mia walked with her head down, her shoulders curved inward as if she could make herself smaller, less visible, less real. The Mercer mansion loomed on Pacific Heights like a monument to everything she would never own. For stories of limestone and bay windows, a garden with a fountain that cost more than her entire year's salary, a front door painted the color of expensive chocolate. She used the side entrance, the one meant for staff, and climbed the narrow stairs to the second floor, to the converted closet that was barely 6 feet wide, with a twin mattress on the floor and one small shelf for her clothing and a hook on the wall for her coat. She had 23 minutes before she had to wake the children. She sat on the edge of the mattress and reached into the corner of the closet, behind the shelf, to the place where she kept the only thing from her childhood that had survived the fire. A pair of baby shoes, wrapped in newspaper so old the pages had turned the color of tea. They were red leather, soft and worn, with tiny laces that had been tied and retied 1,000 times by hands that loved her. She held them in her lap. She did not cry. Her tears had dried up somewhere on a Greyhound bus 7 years ago, when she was 16 and running from the group home and towards something that felt like survival. She held the shoes and she pressed them against her chest and she let herself feel the weight of them, which was almost nothing, but which held inside it everything she had ever wanted and lost. At 6:23, she stood up. She smoothed her hair. She changed out of her diner uniform and into the black dress she wore for work in the Mercer house. She put the shoes back in their newspaper and placed them in their corner. She opened the closet door and walked down the stairs toward the kitchen, where Emma and Thomas would be waiting, where Catherine would be waiting, where the next 14 hours of her life were already scheduled and predetermined and would pass whether she was present for them or not. What she did not know, as she moved through the kitchen preparing breakfast for children who would never truly be hers, was that 3 miles away, in a restaurant called Caruso's, a man named Luca Caruso was receiving information that would eventually change everything. It would take 3 weeks. It would take a storm. It would take a specific moment on a specific highway at a specific time when the universe would decide that invisible people deserved to be seen. But for now, she cracked eggs into a bowl and beat them with a fork, and the sound of the fork against the glass was the only sound that was hers, the only thing in this house that belonged entirely to her, and so she let it ring out into the silence like a bell, like a prayer, like a promise that somewhere inside her, someone was still alive. The rain hammered against the leather backseat window like a fist demanding entry. Mia Reynolds lay curled against the cold glass, her left eye swollen shut, the right eye barely open, watching the highway blur into streaks of yellow and silver as the black SUV cut through the July storm. Her throat burned. Every breath felt like swallowing broken glass. The baby shoes wrapped in newspaper pressed against her ribs inside her bag like a small, fragile heart. She had $5 in her pocket. $5 and the clothes on her back and the memory of Douglas Hale's hand closing around her throat like a vice, like a punishment, like the entire world had finally decided that what she wanted didn't matter anymore. The convoy slowed. Through the haze of her one good eye, she saw the figure across from her with absolute clarity, a man, 38 years old, with dark hair and scars running across both his hands like a map of violence received and survived. His eyes were not kind. His eyes were the color of winter ice and controlled calculation and the kind of power that doesn't need to raise its voice. He wore a cashmere coat that cost more than Mia earned in 3 months. A gold watch caught the lightning through the window, flashing bright, then dark, then bright again. His name was Luca Caruso, though she did not know this yet. She did not know that this man controlled half of San Francisco's underworld. She did not know that his loyalty to his own people was absolute, ruthless, unforgiving. What she did know was that she was alone in a car with 3 men in expensive suits and one of them had just lifted her off the rain-soaked shoulder of Highway 101 like she weighed nothing at all. "Who hurt you?" His voice was accented, low, solid like an oath spoken in a church. He wasn't looking at her face. He was looking at her neck, where Douglas Hale's fingerprints were already blooming purple and yellow against her pale skin. Mia's voice came out as barely a whisper. "Nobody. I'm nobody." Luca Caruso did not respond. He simply took in the sight of her, the torn uniform, the calloused hands, the way she was holding herself like she might break if she moved too suddenly, and something in his chest shifted, though he would not have named it or acknowledged it or admitted to anyone, least of all himself, that it had shifted at all. The penthouse appeared through the storm like something from another world. Floor-to-ceiling windows on the 34th floor overlooking the bay, the Golden Gate Bridge lost in the downpour, the city lights bleeding into water and darkness. Dark wood floors. Leather furniture the color of cognac. The smell of expensive cigars and old books and money, layers and layers of money accumulated over 15 years of operations that existed in the spaces where law enforcement couldn't reach. Mia had never been in a space like this. The closest she had come was serving drinks at the Mercer house, moving through rooms with her eyes down, her presence acknowledged only when something spilled or broke. Sergio and Sal carried her to the guest room. Dr. Patel arrived within 20 minutes, a woman with silver-streaked hair and steady hands who examined Mia without judgment, documenting contusions on the face, the savage handprints on the throat, dehydration so severe her lips were cracking, malnutrition evident in the sharpness of her collarbones. The doctor spoke in soft tones to Luca in the hallway. "She needs rest. Fluids. She's been running on empty for a long time. Not just from tonight. This is chronic." Luca nodded once, sharply. "She stays. She'll need supervision. She's been through trauma. She may." "She stays," he repeated, and that was the end of it. Mia woke at 2 in the morning in a bed that felt like lying on a cloud. The sheets were Egyptian cotton, 800 thread count, softer than anything she had touched in years. Her eye still ached, her throat still burned, but the pain had dulled into a dull throb rather than the sharp, immediate shock of injury. She lay in the darkness, listening to the rain against the window and the distant sound of the city breathing beneath the storm, and for the first time in months, she was warm. She found Luca in the main room, outlined against the city lights, a coffee cup in one hand and a financial report in the other. He looked up when he heard her shuffling footsteps. "You should be resting," he said. "Where am I?" Her voice came out rough, scraped. "Safe." He set down the report. "That's all you need to know right now." She moved to the window, drawn to it like an animal to a scent. The rain was easing. The bridge was becoming visible, orange against the clearing sky. "Why am I here? What do you want from me?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I want to know who hurt you." She laughed, a broken sound. "Why would you care? You don't even know me." "No," he agreed. "I don't. But I know what it looks like when someone is being destroyed slowly." The words landed like a stone in still water. She turned to look at him. Really look at him. And something in his face, some old wound readable in the set of his jaw, made her believe that maybe he did know. Maybe he had seen this from the inside. So she told him. She told him about the group home where she spent 8 years after her parents died in a car accident when she was 6 years old. She told him about the shelter fire at 7 that took everything but a pair of baby shoes her mother had bought for her first steps. She told him about aging out at 18 with $340 and a diploma and nothing else in the world. She told him about Catherine Mercer and the promise of $2,400 a month, which became $150 a month because of invented damages and stolen time. She told him about the converted closet she slept in, about Catherine's friend group referring to her as the help even when she was standing directly in front of them. She told him about Douglas Hale at the Copper Kettle Diner, about his hands, about his voice dropping into something dangerous when she said no, about the way fear tastes like metal and salt. Luca listened without interrupting. When she finished, he asked 2 questions. "What are their full names?" She hesitated. "Why?" "Because I want to know who I'm dealing with." She gave them to him, Douglas Hale. Catherine Mercer. He wrote them down on a notepad with a silver pen, each letter precise and deliberate. "What do you need?" he asked. "I need to get out of the city. I need to find work somewhere else. Somewhere they can't find me." "You need money." She flinched. "I won't owe you anything." His expression hardened. "You won't owe me anything." He ordered food brought in. Pasta, bread, vegetables, fresh fruit she hadn't seen in weeks. Mia ate like she was starving, which she was. Her body barely remembered how to process nutrition. Sal and Sergio watched from the kitchen, exchanging a look neither had to interpret. Sergio's voice, low, "In 15 years, boss has never brought someone into the penthouse for more than an hour." "Sal, she's nobody. A night shift worker." "Maybe," Sergio said. But he didn't sound convinced. 2 days later, Mia was working a temp nanny job through an agency, trying to stay invisible, trying to rebuild the $5 she had left into something that could sustain her. She was eating a sandwich in a corner booth at the Valencia Street Bistro when she heard the sound, a child gasping, the awful, unmistakable sound of an airway closing. She looked over and saw a little girl, maybe 5 years old, her face turning purple. Without thinking, without hesitation, Mia moved. She performed the Heimlich maneuver she had learned in a safety class 3 years ago. The food dislodged. The child breathed. A man with dark hair and scarred hands stared at her from across the restaurant with an expression she couldn't read. After the child was recovered, after the father had thanked her profusely, the man approached her booth. He sat without being invited. "It's you," he said. She looked up. Recognition hit like a delayed impact. The black SUV. The highway. The rain. "I saved my niece's life," he said quietly. "Emma." She was choking. "You were there." He paused. "You've been avoiding my penthouse." "I left the next morning. I didn't want to impose." "You disappeared without a word." His voice didn't change, but something in it sharpened. "My men have been looking for you for 2 days." "Why?" The question came out small. "Because I told them to." He signaled the waiter. "Bring her whatever she wants. Close her tab." The waiter disappeared. Luca leaned forward. "I made some calls. About Catherine Mercer. About Douglas Hale." Mia's stomach dropped. What did you do? Nothing yet. But I know who they are. I know what they've done. Not just to you. Catherine has employed 5 nannies in 3 years. All underpaid. All trapped. Douglas has 9 complaints from 9 women. The police buried every single one. How did you? I have resources. She shook her head. You can't get involved. Catherine's husband is a city councilman. Douglas has union connections. These aren't people you can just. I don't care about city councilmen, he said. His voice was calm. His eyes were not. But what neither of them knew was that at that exact moment, Catherine Mercer was dialing her lawyer, inventing theft charges. Douglas Hale was editing security footage, timestamp by timestamp, erasing his own violence from the record. Both of them had noticed her absence. Both of them were about to strike. Both of them were about to learn that there are consequences to destroying people. They were about to learn that consequences don't always arrive through the justice system. Sometimes consequences arrive in the form of a man with scarred hands and a moral code written in blood. She stands on the rain-soaked sidewalk outside the Copper Kettle Diner at 3 in the morning, the neon sign buzzing like a dying insect above her head, the checkered floor visible through the window gleaming under fluorescent lights that have burned continuously for 43 years. Her hands shake. Not from cold, though November rain clings to her skin and hair like a second skin that refuses to let go, but from the weight of the court summons folded in her jacket pocket, the words burned into her memory, $85,000 in damages and theft. Catherine Mercer is suing her. Catherine Mercer, who stole her wages, who called her worthless, who looked through her like she was a ghost. And now the law will say Mia is the thief. The breath catches in her throat. She has $5 in her pocket. $5. Not 85,000. Not even 800. Just $5 and a decision that tastes like copper on her tongue. Inside the diner, Luca Caruso sits at the corner booth where he found her 2 days ago, his hands wrapped around a black coffee that has gone cold, his dark eyes fixed on the door like he has been watching it for hours. Beside him on the vinyl seat lies a napkin, folded once, and next to it, wrapped in newspaper yellowed with age, a pair of baby shoes no larger than his palm. Small. Fragile. The kind of object that holds more weight than mountains. Sergio stands near the kitchen, pretending to read the menu board, but his eyes track the door and the street beyond it. Sal watches from the counter, his massive frame hunched over an untouched slice of pie. Neither man speaks. They have learned that silence is how their boss thinks. And right now, Luca Caruso is thinking about a woman who was going to walk out of his life like she was nobody. The napkin letter sits on the table between them, written in shaky handwriting that breaks at certain words. You've shown me more kindness in 1 week than I've known in years. I can't stay. She's trying to protect him, and the thought sends something cold and dangerous through his chest. He has survived 15 years in an underworld where mercy is a currency so rare it might as well be mythology. He has killed men. He has ordered men killed. He has watched empires crumble and rebuilt them from blood and silence. But this, a woman trying to sacrifice herself to protect him, this is new. This is the thing that finally breaks through the scar tissue around his heart. She left 4 minutes ago, Sergio says quietly. Not a question about whether they should follow. A statement. Confirmation that the man sitting in this booth will not let her disappear into the rain. Luca stands. His cashmere coat, worth more than Mia's annual salary from 3 jobs combined, drapes across his shoulders like armor. The door opens. Rain rushes in like a living thing. He finds her on the sidewalk, her thin jacket soaked through, her breath coming in short gasps that sound like drowning. She is staring at nothing, her arms wrapped around herself, her whole body trembling. She looks like someone who has been drowning for so long she has forgotten what air feels like. He holds up the napkin letter and the baby shoes, and she turns, and in that moment something shatters behind her eyes. You were going to leave. His voice carries no accusation. Just observation. I had to. Her voice comes out broken, fractured like glass left out in the cold. Catherine's lawsuit. It's $85,000, Luca. I don't have that. I don't have anything. And when this goes to court, everyone will know what I am. A thief. A liar. Douglas will make sure of it. He'll say I stole from the diner. He'll have witnesses. Fake receipts. And Catherine has lawyers that cost more than I'll earn in 10 years. I can't fight her. I can't fight both of them. But you can protect yourself if I'm gone. He steps into the rain, closing the distance between them until there is nothing between them but the space where words used to be. You think I cannot handle Catherine Mercer and Douglas Hale? I think I'm not worth the trouble. His jaw tightens. That is not your decision to make. He reaches for her hand. She doesn't pull away. And in that moment, in the cold November rain outside a diner where everything changed, Luca Caruso makes a choice that his men will spend years trying to understand. He chooses her. Not because he is weak, but because choosing her is the most dangerous thing he has ever done. Across the city, in a modest apartment in the Tenderloin district, Douglas Hale sleeps the sleep of a man who has never questioned his own cruelty. The walls are thin. Through them, you can hear the neighbor's television, a baby crying 3 floors down, the hum of the refrigerator that cycles on and off like a heartbeat. He dreams of the diner, of Mia's terrified face when he pinned her against the walk-in cooler, of the way she flinched when he touched her. In his dream, she is still there. Still trapped. Still his. At 5:47 in the morning, the dream ends. The sound comes first, a thunderous crack as the battering ram meets the door. The hinges explode inward. Douglas jolts awake, his heart hammering, and for 3 seconds he doesn't understand what is happening. Then the light floods in, blinding and white, and the figures in tactical gear pour through the broken doorway like an invasion, like the sky itself has fallen into his apartment. There are 12 of them. 12 men who move with the precision of an orchestra, each one knowing exactly where to be, what to do, when to speak. Douglas Hale, you are under arrest for wire fraud, tax evasion, embezzlement, and racketeering. They haul him from his bed in his underwear and wrinkled t-shirt, his body thin and pale in the harsh light of the flashlights, his face slack with the shock of a man who never believed consequences existed for people like him. The cuffs click. Cold. Metal. Permanent. They push his head down as they guide him toward the door, and through the window he can see the street filling with police vehicles, the red and blue lights painting everything the color of sirens. News cameras are already rolling. By 6:15, Catherine Mercer's door receives its own assault. The IRS agents move with the same precision, the same cold efficiency. They have warrants printed in triplicate. They have her financial records already subpoenaed. They have statements from 5 former nannies who were paid in cash, claimed as deductions, and never actually compensated. They have bank transfers to shell companies. They have yacht purchases and art acquisitions, and all of it funded by money that belonged to people like Mia Reynolds. She stands in her sunroom, surrounded by orchids and sunlight, still wearing her silk robe the color of champagne, and the rage that erupts from her is primal and ancient. Do you know who my husband is? You'll regret this. My lawyers will destroy your careers. You have no idea what you're doing. But her husband is not coming to save her. The city councilman is already in an FBI vehicle 40 blocks away, his political career collapsing in real time as news outlets report his involvement in his wife's schemes. Both of them are being dismantled simultaneously, like a building scheduled for demolition, every floor dropping at precisely the same moment. The footage spreads. Within 1 hour, 500,000 people have seen it. Douglas Hale's face on the news. Catherine Mercer's fury captured on a dozen cell phones as she's led to the FBI vehicle. By 9 in the morning, every news outlet in San Francisco is running the story. By noon, the national networks have picked it up. By evening, the story is everywhere. Mia sits in Luca's penthouse on the 42nd floor, her hands covering her mouth, watching the television screen where her tormentors are being destroyed. The diner is already closed by order of federal authorities, its assets frozen, its reputation in ruins. Douglas Hale is being arraigned. Catherine Mercer is being arraigned. Both of them will receive sentences that measure in decades. 40 years for Douglas. 35 for Catherine. Not quick. Not easy. Not merciful. Systematic destruction. You did this, Mia whispers. Luca sits beside her on the couch, the city sprawling beneath them like something conquered and laid at their feet. I have resources, he says simply. I made some calls. The FBI has been investigating Douglas for months. I simply made sure they had the evidence they needed. As for Catherine, the IRS was already looking at her accounts. The nannies needed protection and legal representation. I provided both. But why? The question comes out small, childlike. Why would you risk everything for me? He sets down his coffee. Because mercy is a choice only the strong can afford to make. And I chose you. Outside, San Francisco glitters with rain-washed lights, and somewhere in this city, a child named Emma is sleeping in a bed that will soon have a new mother figure. Somewhere, justice has arrived not through the traditional channels but through a man with scarred hands and a moral code written in blood. And somewhere, a woman who was nobody is beginning to understand that she has always been somebody. She just needed someone strong enough to believe it first. The rain falls softer now. And after the rain, the sky clears. 3 weeks after the arrests, the morning light falls soft and golden across the penthouse breakfast table, and Mia Reynolds sits across from Luca Caruso with a coffee cup warming her trembling hands. The newspaper lies between them, folded to the business section, though neither is reading. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, San Francisco sprawls beneath them, indifferent to the transformation happening 42 stories above the streets. Sergio enters quietly, the way he always does, carrying a cream-colored envelope on a silver tray. His expression gives nothing away, but Mia has learned to read the smallest shifts in the men around Luca. This one means something significant. For Miss Reynolds, Sergio says, placing the envelope beside her plate. Luca does not look up from his newspaper, but she sees the corner of his mouth lift. He knew this was coming. Inside the envelope are papers that blur beneath her vision until she can focus on a single number. $47,000. Her hand shakes so badly she nearly drops the document onto her lap. The letterhead reads, Settlement Award, Back Wages and Damages, Mercer Estate. This is more money than I have ever seen in my entire life, Mia whispers. There is a second document. The charges have been expunged. Her record, the false theft accusations Catherine manufactured, erased as if they never existed. As if those years of shame never happened. There is more coming from the class action suit against Hale, Luca says, turning a page with deliberate calm. 43 other women have filed. The settlements will be substantial. She stares at him across the table. This man with scarred hands and eyes like winter stone. This man who controls half the city's underworld, who destroyed 2 people like they were nothing because they hurt her. This man who pulled her bleeding and shattered from a highway and gave her sanctuary without asking for anything in return. I don't know how to thank you, she says, and her voice breaks on each syllable. He finally looks at her. Then don't. But she sees it in his eyes, a flicker of something vulnerable, something that looks terrifyingly like hope. The same thing she feels when he is near her. The same thing she is terrified to name. 3 days later, Luca drives her to Presidio Heights himself, no convoy, no security detail, just a black sedan and the sound of rain beginning against the windows. His sister's house sits behind wrought iron gates, all Victorian elegance and old San Francisco money, but it is Emma who matters. Emma opens the door before they can knock, her small body moving like sunlight through the entryway, and when she sees Mia, she runs. The impact of her small body against Mia's legs nearly brings her to her knees. Mia! Mia! You came back. I came back, Mia says, kneeling, gathering the child into her arms, and Emma smells like apple juice and safety, and Mia thinks she might break into pieces right here on this marble floor. Luca's sister appears in the doorway, a woman with his same dark eyes and his same composed expression, though hers holds something softer. She embraces Mia carefully, as if she might shatter. Luca told me what you did. What you risked. I don't have words adequate enough to thank you. I didn't do anything special, Mia says, but Emma is holding her hand now, pulling her inside, and she can feel Luca watching from the doorway, his scarred hands relaxed at his sides, and she understands that this moment, this ordinary, beautiful moment of a child choosing her, is the most dangerous weapon Luca Caruso has ever allowed anyone to use against him. That night, back at the penthouse, Mia finally asks the question that has been living in her chest since the moment she met him. Why did you really help me? She stands at the window, the city spread below like a kingdom, and her reflection looks like a ghost in the glass. You don't do this for everyone. Luca is silent for so long that she wonders if he will answer at all. When he speaks, his voice is like something breaking. My brother, Dante. He was 2 years younger than me. We built this organization together from nothing. Every street we owned, every person we protected, we built it together. He pauses. The rain intensifies against the windows, a sound like thousands of small fists demanding entry. 10 years ago, he sold us out to the Calabrese family. Routes, names, locations. In exchange for money and a promise they would let him walk away. What happened? She whispers. They killed 17 of our people in one night. My father. 3 cousins. Dante thought he could survive by betraying everyone who loved him. He was wrong. He turns to face her. I had to choose between mercy and survival. I chose survival. He does not elaborate, and she does not ask him to. She understands what that choice cost him. I am not your brother, Mia says. No. You are the opposite. You had every reason to save yourself, to walk away, and you stayed. You fought. When Emma was choking, you did not freeze. You acted. That is not weakness. That is strength. He moves closer, and the air between them shifts, becomes electric, becomes something that feels like danger and safety combined into a single moment. I have spent 10 years believing mercy was weakness. And then I pulled you out of the rain, and you looked at me like I was the dangerous one. You were right. I am dangerous. But not to you. Never to you. Her breath catches. She should step away. She should tell him this is impossible, that she is not equipped for this world, that she belongs nowhere near him. Instead, she reaches out, and her hand finds his scarred one, and his fingers close around hers with the tenderness of a prayer. I can't be part of your world, she says, but even as the words leave her mouth, she knows they are lies. You belong wherever you choose to be, he says simply. 6 months pass like a blade through water. Mia is enrolled in nursing school, studying harder than she has ever studied anything, determined to transform the trauma of Douglas Hale's assault into something useful, something that saves lives instead of destroying them. She has used the settlement money to rent a small apartment in the marina, 2 rooms, and a kitchen that catches afternoon light, the first place she has ever truly owned. She and Luca maintain distance, both circling around the thing they are too afraid to name. He does not push. She does not retreat entirely. They exist in a liminal space, neither together nor apart, both waiting for something neither can articulate. At 3 in the morning on a Tuesday night, Mia sits in a corner booth at the Copper Kettle, the diner, now under new management, its neon sign repaired, its reputation rehabilitated. She is studying for her clinical exam, highlighting passages in a nursing textbook, when the bell above the door chimes. Luca walks in alone. No security. No lieutenants. He is wearing jeans and a dark sweater, looking almost ordinary, and the ordinariness of him is more shocking than anything else. He slides into the booth across from her without asking permission. You are hard to find these days, he says. She smiles faintly. I have been busy. I heard. Nursing school. Top of your class. You are keeping tabs on me. Always. He says it without apology, and she should be annoyed. She is not. He reaches into his jacket and withdraws a small wrapped box. Her heart stops. Inside are the baby shoes, her mother's final gift, preserved now in a clear case mounted on museum-quality velvet, protected like something sacred. Tears spring to her eyes before she can stop them. You said they were all you had left of her, Luca says quietly. I thought they deserved to be protected. She cannot speak. Her throat closes. He continues, his voice dropping to something barely audible over the hum of the diner's aging refrigerator. I also wanted to tell you something. The most dangerous thing I have ever held is not a gun. It is hope. Hope that someone like you could look at someone like me and see something worth saving. She reaches across the table and takes his scarred hand in hers. His fingers are warm. His grip is steady. You don't need saving, she says. You never did. Neither did you. But we saved each other anyway. They sit in the empty diner, the black and white checkered floor gleaming under the neon lights, the smell of fresh coffee and possibility in the air. Outside, the rain has stopped. The sky is clearing. Mercy is a choice only the strong can afford to make. This is what Mia Reynolds has learned. She was nobody, a nanny sleeping in a converted closet, a waitress with $5 in her pocket, a woman with bruises on her throat and shame written across her face. But she was also the woman who saved Emma's life without asking for anything in return. That single act of courage changed everything, because in the end, we are not defined by what is done to us. We are defined by what we choose to do when it matters most. If this story moved your heart, drop a like and share it with someone who needs to know they are not alone. Subscribe because tomorrow we have another story that will change the way you see strength, survival, and second chances. What would you do if the most dangerous man in the city looked at you and saw not a victim, but an equal? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. After the rain, the sky clears. Thank you for staying with us. We will see you again in the next video.